Dear students, I welcome you to this live lesson on this very important topic related to your computer science curriculum. And we will be discussing project development in the subject of computer science for class 12. It is very important as you have completed your entire syllabus and now you are ready with all the topics and the concepts that are discussed and that are covered in your curriculum. So based on those concepts that you have studied in class 11th and 12th, you will be making a small project in this subject of computer science using Python. So in this video, we will be discussing what are the important points that you should keep in mind while developing a project for class 12 computer science. Okay, let's get started. While developing a project, some points that you should keep in mind. That number one point, the first thing you have to select a domain. That means the area for which you are making the project. You can make a project on bank management system, you can make a project on library management system, student information system, it can be a railway reservation system, it can be a ticket booking system, it can be a hotel management system. So first thing you have to do is you have to identify the domain on which you are making the project. So after you have decided your project domain, then you will go to the step number 2. Step 2 is to decide the front end. Front end means the language that you will require to code to develop the project. For this year, you have Python in your course, so we will be using Python. And other languages can also be used. So if suppose you are familiar with C, C++, Java, so you can use those languages, or you can also go for some other languages. If suppose you are working with Visual Studio, then you can go for C# and Visual J#. There are many languages. So in this step, you have to select the language on which you will code your project. Means the language that you will use for coding your project. For this, we will use Python for this session. Okay, third, you have to decide the backend. Backend means your database system in which you will store your data. What are the possible options? The first basic possible option is file handling. If you are making your project on with the use of files, then you should use file handling. Otherwise, you can go for Microsoft Access, or you can go for Oracle, or you can go for MySQL. It is an open source software. So, as per your syllabus, you have MySQL in your course. So, we will use MySQL as the backend. Next step, menu options. In this step, you have to decide what are the menus and sub-menus that you will be providing to the user in your project. Because we are using Python, and in Python also we are not going for graphical user interface, we are going for command user interface. So we will be providing textual menus. As you see in DOS, there are options number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there can be sub-menus in those menus. So if you are going for any GUI language, like if you are making a project in Visual Studio, Then that is a graphical user interface. Okay, then you have to decide the menu bar in which you place your menus, and then you go for sub menus like you see in your Windows. There are options like in suppose Microsoft Word, there are options like file, edit, view, page layout, many options. And under that there are submenus. So that is for graphical user. But here in Python, we, as per your syllabus, we are just given the command user interface. So we will be giving the menu options to the user, and the user will select the required number of the required option from them. So this is very important step. Here you have to decide the menu options that you will provide and the sub menus for those menus. Okay, so this is the fourth option, fourth step in project development. After you have decided the menu options, then next step is database connectivity. So at the beginning of your project development, you first try to connect your database successfully with your Python project. So this is very important step. This is the beginning of coding part. These four parts are theoretical part where you have to just conceptualize your domain, your front end, that will be Python as per your syllabus, your back end, that is your database, that will be MySQL. Next, fourth, you decide in your mind the menu options and you draw those menu options in a piece of paper so that you do not forget it, and you also decide the sub menus under those menus if required. When you come to the coding part, after you have decided all these things, the domain, the front end, the back end, and the menu options, the first thing that is you require a correct data connection. So in this step, you will be connecting to your database. You will try to connect to your database through your Python. As this database connection you have studied in class 12, that is, it will be very easy for you. And after you have connected your database correctly, then you will go for coding functions. After you have connected to the database, the last step for you will be coding the function. And how you will design the function? All those functions will be related to the menus and the submenus. At every menu selection, you will be calling a particular function. Okay? So, whenever the user will select a particular option, a corresponding function will be called. So, you will code those functions one by one. Okay? So, these are the steps of project development. So following these steps, you can easily design a good project. So let's start with all these points. We will discuss them one by one in detail so that you can easily design your project. So first point is domain selection. It entirely depends on you which type of problem domain you want to work on. Some basic problem or domain, because you are the beginners in Python, so you can select a basic domain. The first domain that we use is bank management system. Okay, where you provide the users the options of creating a bank account, updating a bank account, deleting a bank account, transfer of money from one account to another account, and those options. Second option is hotel management system. Third option is library management system for your school. Fourth is student information system. Fifth, so you can have ticket booking system for a multiplex or a single screen cinema. So anything that you can think of can be taken as a domain. You can take bus reservation system, railway reservation system, any type of system you can take. So this is your choice. What type of system you want to work on. So this is the main thing that I want to tell you here. Why this is given in your course, project development? Because project development includes all those concepts that you have studied in class 11th and 12th with respect to Python. You will be using all those concepts in this project. So before working on this project, you must be clear with all those topics. The basic ones that you will be using will be loops, the conditional statements, if else, that ladder, the loops will be there, and most importantly, the functions that are the basic building blocks of this project. And if we go to advanced part, you will be working on database connectivity. So you must be clear about the database connectivity. All those things will be must be clear to you before you start working on the project, because you have to use all those concepts. The concept of list, tuple, dictionary, all those will be strings will be used here. So you must go through all those concepts. If you have not gone through, if you have any problem in these topics, suppose database connectivity, you can go to the videos related to that database connectivity or list or tuple. Everything is there in the playlist. You can go through that video and master those skills, and then you can come back to developing a project. So the basic requirement for developing a project is the mastery over all the topics that are in your syllabus. Okay, so you must have done all the programming part of this database connectivity. Then only you can connect your Python to your MySQL. And while designing the front end, you will require the basic knowledge of list, tuples, dictionary, and all the basic rules and the operators. And while working with the backend, you will be requiring the knowledge of MySQL, how to write a query, how to execute a query. So you must go through those MySQL portions of 11th and 12th. Okay, so all these things are necessary. So the first part we have already discussed, that the domain will be dependent on your choice. What type of problem you want to solve. Okay, I have given some examples to you. You can search on net and you can choose your own domain. Okay, so the first thing is the problem that you want to work on. Now we come to the second part, choosing the front end. Here you do not have any choice because your course, the Python language has been given in your syllabus, so you do not have any choice. But if you are having mastery over many languages, suppose you know C, C++, Java, C sharp, J sharp, and or many others, so you have to select a basic language that you want to work on. So for you, the choice is Python. So here in the second part, if you have decided your domain of work and you have decided your language Python, so you must, if you have decided Python, then it is believed that you know all the concepts related to this Python language. How to declare a variable, how to declare a list, tuple, dictionary, how to use them, and the functions that are very important related to strings, list, tuple, and dictionary. So you must be clear with all those functions that are given in your course related to this Python. Okay. Third part will be backend selection and backend design. So backend selection, you have only one choice here as per your syllabus, that is MySQL, and you can go for other options also if you know how to connect them. Okay, so we will be using MySQL as our backend. So the concept of front end is clear. Let's start with the third portion, that is backend. Backend design. How to design your backend. Here, you will be dealing with, first, you have to name a database. Suppose you are working on library management system, so you can give the name as library. Okay, first we have to create a database. I think you know the commands how to create a database in MySQL. If you do not, go to that video of creation database and tables, and you will be finding all the answers of your queries there. So first one is database. So first we have to give a name to the database. Suppose you are working on library management system, so you can give the name as library. Next, after designing the database, you should design the tables inside. The tables that will be there in that database. Okay, and inside these tables, you will be working with the fields. Okay, the column. Now, how to design a database? The first thing is you should give the database name, and then you will all these things that is to be done in a piece of paper, so that the things the entire database structure is clear to you while you are designing your software. If it is in your mind only, then you can skip some portions while designing the project. So what you should do is you should write those database design in a piece of paper, and you should keep it with you whenever you are working on this project. Okay, so that all the tables and all the fields name are clear. So first you will design you will give a database name. Afterwards, you will start designing tables. Here the important point is you should not use only a single table to record all the values. Okay. The approach is use more and more tables. Okay. Suppose we are working on a student database. So one table should be related to the basic details of students. Okay. Another table should be related to its examination part. Another table should be dealing with the co-curricular activities part. Next table should be dealing with the grades related to discipline and other things that are there. So the database should be distributed. It should not be combined in a single table. Okay? So this database must contain many tables which should be connected by the foreign. Okay? So a particular, first you have to design the database, and then you have to decide what key you will be using as a primary key. Suppose you are working on library management, then the book ID will be the primary key. If you are working on student management system, then admission number will be the primary key. If you are working on employee management system, then the employee ID will be. And if you are working on any type of system, there is a particular field that you must select for primary key post. Suppose you are working on a ticket management system, then you will be generating a PNR number or a ticket number that will work as a primary key. Okay, so there will be some master tables that will be there, and then there will be some intermediate tables also. Master table means that hold the important data, and other tables that are created as per requirement and can be deleted also. So there are some master tables. In these master tables, you have to mention all those fields that you are required in the project. Suppose you are working with student management system. So first table you want to name as student or admission. Then you will have admission number, first name of the student, middle name of the student, last name of the student, date of birth, parent, father's name, mother's name, address, pin code, phone number, second phone number, email ID, all those things. Here you have to note that your data should be as split as you can. Suppose you want to have the name of the student. So this can be done two ways. Either you can go for storing that name in a single data field, that is name. Or what you can do is you can break it into three parts: first name, middle name, last name. So the second approach is better for designing a good project. If you want to store in three parts: first name, middle name, last name. So this approach is better, and you can go for storing its data. But so first you have to, as you are clear with your domain, then you should be clear with all the fields, this one, that are related to this that particular domain. So what you should do is you should write all those fields in a piece of paper. Okay, first what you should do is you should write database name, suppose student, and then you should write number one, number two, all the fields that are possible as per the domain that you have chosen, and you should write all those fields in a piece of paper. Then you should group those fields in different tables. Suppose 5 to 10 fields in one table, other fields in some other table. So you will be requiring 3-4 tables in your database. Some of them will be master tables that will hold the basic data, okay, the building blocks of your database, and some will be having transactional details. Okay. Here, one important thing I want to tell you: whenever you are working with a project in your class 12th, you must also have some tables related to transaction details, the logging info. Suppose you are working with a library management system and you are issuing books and returning books. So you should have a table called transaction transaction log, where you have all the logs related to all the transactions that have taken place. Suppose you have issued a book, so that table should have the entry that on date this and time this a book was issued. Suppose you have entered a new book in your library, you have purchased a new book and you want to enter it in your library system, then there must be a table called transaction, where you will write that date this, time this, a new book named this was entered into the database. Okay. If you want to return, if the student returns the book, then you should have an entry in that transaction table that on this date and this time, student this have returned this book. So these are the very important things that you should keep in mind while designing a project. Okay. So the master tables will be there. Suppose we are working with library, then there will be a master table called book. Okay, that will be having all the basic details related to books. Book number, the first one will be ISBN number if you want to make it, or book ID. Then book name, publisher name, publishing year, edition number, and pages, price, publisher, and many things that as much as you can think, you can note down, and you can make it one table called book. Second table will be like issue, where you will record all the entries related to book issue. Then you will have a return table, book return, where you will be having all the information related to the return of book by the students. Then you will have a fine table, where you will be having the entries related to fine. Suppose you have issued a book for 15 days and the student returns after 15 days, then you should give a fine. Then you must have a table, a master table, that must have the details related to the fine that is to be issued to the students on per day basis. Suppose on course book you are issuing 1 rupee fine, on some novels you are issuing 2 rupees fine, and some reference book you are issuing 5 rupees fine. So that that fine table will be having those fines. And whenever a student returns the book, then you should also check if there is any fine applicable on that return of book. And these are some basic master table. Then you will have a transaction table. Okay, whenever you do a transaction. Transaction means any type of activity in your database. But activity where your database has been effected will be recorded in that transaction table, or you can call it log table. Okay, any type of transaction. What is it? Through which the database is being effected. Entry of book, issue of book, return of book, issue of fine, anything, updation of the details of any particular book, any type of activities that will be there in your database will be recorded in that transaction table, so that the user can, the administrator can check what are the activities that have been taken place in the particular time period or a particular date. Here, another important point comes that you can also have users. Okay, then if you want to have two users, suppose one administrator user that can enter the book or update the book details or update the amount of fine, and another user that can only have the power to issue and return the book. So you can have two users, administrator user, general user. So if you want to have two users or more than two users, then you must have a table. Then you must have a table named database. Then you must have a table named name users, where you should have the entry related to username and password. Okay, so this was the backend field where you have to design your database, and the best approach is by designing a database is to first write it in a piece of paper so that it remains with you whenever you are working on it. Okay, put the database name and write all the fields that can be there in that particular database. Okay, then you have to think about all the possible fields related to that particular domain. So for that you must sit at a place and you should think that what are the possible things or what are the possible values that you will require in your project. Okay, it can be added further. Suppose when you are working on your project, it may happen that you come across a particular field that you have not taken yet, and you want to add it in your database. So that if you are ready with your all the fields in a particular piece of paper, then you can create a new table and you can write those columns in that. Okay, so you should not just keep it in your mind, you should also have it in black and white also. Okay, so whenever you are working with your project, you must have that paper in which you have designed the database in front of you. Then you should go for database and the coding part. Okay, so it gives a lot of help, because you will not remember the names of fields that you have used in your database. Okay, the database that you will be using will be MySQL. Okay, it is a different software. Okay, so if you have not written those fields in a piece of paper, then what you have to do is you have to again go to the MySQL and log in on that MySQL with your username, password, and then describe that all those tables, and then you will remember, okay, then this was the name. So better approach is to write in a piece of paper and keep it with you whenever you are working on that project. It helps you a lot. Okay, mind it. So this was designing the backend. Okay, how you should design the backend part. Here you should give tables, and in the tables you should be having fields. The first field, the most important, is the primary key that you will be using, and I have told you that you must have some master tables that will be having main data, and you must also have some transactional tables that will be having all those transaction details that will take place. Okay, so this, in the beginning you can have a general design of your database. As you progress forward, you can rectify that database design more and more, so that suppose in the beginning you have only just 2 or 3 tables, no problem. When you will start designing the menu system, then you will require to add more and more data on those database fields. Okay, so the designing of backend is directly connected to the designing of menu system. Okay, when you start designing the menus, the ideas will come into your mind that I will require this field also. So what you can do is, in that piece of paper where you have written all those fields separately, database name, table 1, its fields, table 2, its field. In the first page, you should write database and all the fields that can be there in that particular domain. Okay. Then in the next page, you should divide those fields in different tables. So what will be the approach? Table 1, its fields. Table 2, its fields. Table 3, its fields, and so on. And the name should be proper. Suppose you are giving admission number, so the name you should give should be can be ADM underscore NO. Okay, it should not be very lengthy, or it should not be very short, but A, B, C like that. Okay, so the name should be understandable, easy to understand, and easy to remember. And you should use your underscore also, ADM underscore NO, admission number. Suppose you are giving student name, STD underscore name. Suppose you are giving book name, so book underscore name. Okay, so like this. So the approach should be of designing the name should be very clear, so that whenever you come back to that database, you can understand what was the purpose of designing that particular field. So what you can do is you can write the name of the field, and after it, in the brackets, you can write what is the purpose of this using this field. Okay. So this was how you should design the backend. Okay. Now, next we have many options. Menu design, it is very important part. Okay, so in this part you design the menus that you will provide the user to work on. Suppose you can take the example of the ATM software. Whenever you go to a particular ATM, then whenever you insert your card, then you are presented with the menus. Okay, then whenever you select a particular menu, then you have more sub menus in it. Then after going through all those sub menus, you can get to your required field, okay, required option. Same thing you have done in your while you are using any type of software. Suppose Microsoft Word, Excel, you have menus on the top, and then inside that you have sub menus. Here the same approach should be followed. The first approach is main menu. The main menu that you should give to the user. This main menu must have options for basic options for entry. It can be depending upon your domain, entry of student, entry of book, entry of account, anything. Number 2, updation, a modification. Okay. Because sometimes, many times, there are chances that you have entered something wrong or you want to change it. So then you have some options for updation also. Then you can also have options for deletion, if it is required in the system. Deletion or deactivation. It can be deactivation. Suppose with respect to bank management system, if you talk. If you do not want to delete a particular account, you can deactivate it. So these are the general options. You can change it according to your domain. Next, very important, that is searching. This is the most important part in a particular project, because the starting menus are very much similar enough, but the main thing, the success of your project depends upon this part, the menu for searching. The more options you will give, your software will be more usable. Okay, because the entry and deletion and updation are one-time activity. Okay, but this searching is required on daily basis. Okay, because you will not be remembering all the data. Suppose you have entered 1,000 books in your system, so you will not be remembering all those 1,000 books ID, name, and other things. So what you should do, you should be using searching method. You means the user. The user to whom you will present that software will be using this menu the most. Because if the student asks, if you are having the computer science book in our library, the user will just click on this search menu and you will use it. So this searching menu is the most important part of your project. Okay, so the success of your software or project depends upon the number of options you have given in this searching. Suppose you have designed a student management system, so you can give searching based on first name, searching on based on middle name, search based on last name, date of birth, address, city, pin code, anything. Okay, the more options you should give, the better will be the project developed by you. So you must focus on this part, and this will have submenu. In the submenu, you will be having the options: search by first name, search by middle name, search by this, many names. Okay, so this is very important. Next, for the softwares of current time, you must have reporting. The menu related to report, because you want, sometimes the user wants to know how many books have been issued in this particular date or in this particular week or in this particular month. So you will require the option of reporting. Here you must use graphs. The graphs have been removed from your syllabus of computer science, but they were there in the previous years. So those are very easy to understand and very usable. Okay, you just go through the book of previous year and you will easily understand all the concepts related to graphs. And you must go through those and you must use them, because it is very easy. If you have not having that particular book, don't worry. When we will be discussing an example of a project that I have made, I will show you all the options of generating a graph. Okay, because these are visual parts. So seeing a graph, you can easily understand the amount of books that have been issued or returned, or the fine that has been collected, or how many users have been entered in this particular, been admitted into the school in this particular period. Okay, so everything can be visualized through these graphs. So this reporting part is very much required. And for that, you must use graph option for with the Python. It is very easy to understand. Okay, there are line graphs, there are pie charts, okay, bar graphs. All the graphs you have studied in your maths syllabus of class 10 and 9. So those things can be used in Python also. Okay, so using those graphs, it will be very easy to represent your transactions. And the last option is to exit the system. This is very much required in a particular project. Okay, so these are the basic menus that you should give in your project. And the last option should be exit. If the user wants to exit your software, then you should give the option for it. And how you will give in the programming part, you will use print function to give the option. Suppose print, press 1 for entry of book. Press, next line, print, press 2 for updation of book. Press 3 for delete. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will be used as the menu. And the last option should be press 0 to exit. So that 0 should be reserved for exiting the system. So this is the basic menu that you should use in any particular problem that you select for yourself to design a particular solution for that. Okay. So this is general. You can add more depending upon your domain. You can add more options here. Okay. But these are some basic options. And inside it, there can be more options. Suppose the best one is this searching part and this reporting. These two, please note that these two are the basics on which the success of your project depends. Okay. The more options for searching and the more options for reporting you will give, the more adaptive and the more successful will be your project. So these are the basic things, because in entry there is nothing. You have to enter get all the details from the user and save it into the database. Updation, you want the correct entry, you can change it. Deletion, you can do it. But these are the basics, because these things will be used at the most. Okay. And searching is very much required, because you have to search again and again if you are having that particular book or particular item in your stock or not. And reporting is very much required for further purchase of books or other items. So these two things are very much important. As per me, these two options hold the key for the success of your project, because these basic other things are there in every project: entry, updation, deletion, and exit. But these two parts, these hold the key for the success of your project. Okay. Now, depending upon your domain, you can have more options. Suppose you are working with library management, then you can have option of issue and return in this main menu only. Okay. And there can be, just suppose you are working on bank management system, then you can have the option of fund transfer and other things. Okay. So this menu can change, but this is the basic menu. Okay. You can add more things, but should not delete any point from this main menu. Okay. And again, I am emphasizing these 2 points: searching and reporting. These are very important, and it will hold the key for the success of your project. I think it is clear to you. Okay, let's see what other options that we have. Then we have database connection and this coding function. This is completely related to the programming part that we will just discuss when we take a particular demo of the project that I have developed for you, and then we will discuss that part in very much detail so you can have the knowledge of it. But this basic part, theoretical part, okay, the prerequisites before starting that coding part, it is very important that you should identify your domain. You should identify, you have already identified your front end, your back end. Then the best and the most important task is to design the database and the options that will be there, the fields that you will be having, the number of tables that you will be having. Try to have more and more tables depending upon your option. Then again, I am emphasizing that this thing, database design and menu design, that should be these two work should be done in a quiet place when you are alone, and you must concentrate yourself on that particular project completely, and then you can think of more and more options that can be there. Okay, you can go search on Google the various types of options that are already there in, related to that particular domain. And what you should do is you must think of some extra options, because whenever you will give that particular project to the user, or you will present your project in front of the examiner will ask you what is different in your system from other systems. Okay, so because there are many systems related to library and bank management system, student management system. Okay, but what extra or what different thing or what unique thing that you have in your project will make you get more marks. Okay, and it will also impress the examiner that you have used this. And how you can do it? First thing, you have to have a quiet place and you should concentrate on your problem. Think more and more deep in that problem, and you should come out with a point or an option, a menu option that is not there in any other software available on net. Okay. There is a request that do not copy your project from anywhere, because project development is a very interesting task. It is a time-consuming task, no doubt, but it is very interesting. If you have the knowledge of all the basic theoretical part of Python and practical portion of MySQL and Python connectivity, then you can design it, I can say, in a week. If you give good time to that your project, you can develop this project in a week. But you should be clear with the domain. Okay, so first thing you should do is you should sit in a quiet place. You should think of your domain, what problem you want to solve through your project. You can go to net and you can search. Many websites are there that will give you options of this, but do not copy their code, please. Is a request, because this is a very interesting part in this Python. Okay, if you can develop this project, and after 12th you go to some programming branch like BTech CS, or after that you go to MCA, then you will be having more and more projects. And when you go to the industry of software, it is very much that requires a lust for programming. You must have a thirst of programming more and more. So this is the beginning step. You should not copy a project from any website. You can take help of those websites to get your menu options right, and you can add many other options that are there in their project, but you must have some unique menu options in your project. And how you can do it? You have to think over it again and again, have a brainstorming session with your teacher or with your colleagues, and then you can come out with a unique option that you can give in your menu. Okay, that will uniquely identify your project from others. Okay, so the beginning of a project, when you have decided your domain, just sit at a quiet place, have a copy with you with a pen, and you can write the name of the project, and then you can have the database design in your mind, then copy that design in your mind to your that notebook, all the fields, all the tables that you want to make. Then you decide the menu options that you want to give to the user. Then after the menus, you go to the sub menus that you want to give to the user. You can search in the internet for the options that are there, and then you should start coding. Okay, you should not adapt the approach of first sitting on the computer and then thinking of what should I do. Okay, this is not the best approach. This is a very bad approach. The best approach is first to write everything in black and white in a notebook and then start coding. And whenever you are coding the project, have that notebook with you, so that you can have a look at the database name, the table name, and the names of the fields, and you should not misspell them in your programming part. Okay, so this video lesson was just for the beginning of this introduction to how to design a project, and these were the points that we have discussed. This database connections, there is a purely programming part. You have done it in your practical portion, and we have many videos related to connectivity of Python and MySQL. You can check them, and the use of functions. Okay, the use of functions is very easy. The number of menus and submenus that will be there, and depending upon them, there will be the required number of functions. Okay, so this was the outline of your project. I think I am able to clear all your doubts. The request from my side is, please do not copy any project from net and just use it. You should use your mind. Make a small project. You are not required to make a large project, because as per your guidelines, you can only have 500, minimum 500 lines of code in your project. So 500 lines are very easy. They are not and this is not a big deal to write 500 lines, because when you write a menu system, it makes your program about 50 lines. Okay, so when you will start doing it, your project will go to 1000 or 1500 lines. But if you want to copy, that is not a good approach. So my request to you is, don't copy. You can get the help from that. The project available on the net. You can have some menu options copied from them. Okay, their approach can be taken, but the programming part should not be copied. That should be done by you only, because it's your test. How much knowledge of Python you have got in these 2 years of 11th and 12th. That is going to be tested when you will work on this project, and you will gain a lot of knowledge. Believe me, it will get you more and more knowledge related to Python and MySQL. Okay, keep aside the 2 years of study of Python in 11th and 12th, the theoretical study, and on the one side you will be getting the knowledge of Python and MySQL while you are working on this project. This will be more compared to the knowledge that you have gained in those 2 years of 11th and 12th. Try and tell me that if I am correct or not, because I have tried many projects working on Python and other languages also, and I found that while working on the project, we get more and more knowledge when compared to the theoretical sessions that we go through. Okay, so this was all about the basics of this project designing. My request is you should follow this approach, and after following this approach, you will find that project development is an art, and it is very easy to design a project, and you will become fond of this project development, and you will like to develop more and more projects. Okay, so my humble request to you is, think before doing. Okay, you should not sit on a computer and then think of the problem and the parts that we have discussed. The first thing you should do is, you first think, write it in a piece of paper, in a notebook, anything and everything that comes to your mind, note it down, because at some place you can you will require that part. Okay, so anything that comes to your mind, just note it down. Any menu options comes to your mind, if it comes in your mind in the dreams also, you just get up and note it down. Because many times when you are just thinking of a project every time, then the menu options also start coming in the dreams also. Okay, in your dream you will see that I have designed a particular software that is having these menus options. Then when you get up, just note down those options that you see in your dreams. Okay, but this is a dream project for you. Okay, and this will start coming in your dreams when you will start working on this project seriously. Okay, so try to work on this very seriously. With this, you will get the 100% knowledge of the concepts that you have in your curriculum. Okay, with this, we come to the end of this video lesson. This was a live video lesson. Go through this video lesson again and again. And again, my approach you should follow. That is, first sit at a quiet place, think over the domain that you have chosen, and have a notebook and a pen, and note down first the name of the database, then all the fields in one paper that come to your mind. Then divide those fields into separate tables. Then next step, have a design of your main menu in that page. Then go to the designing the sub menus of those menus. After you have designed all these things, match the menus and sub menus with the database options. Okay, and if you come to some other fields while designing the menus and sub menus, just add them in your database part. Okay, and after you are done with all these portions, then you will start coding. In the next video lesson, I will be showing you the project developed by me using this Python and database connectivity, and through that project, I will guide you how to start the coding part. Okay, till then, work hard, concentrate on your domain, and complete all those points that I have discussed in this video lesson. Thank you very much.